With AI, you write a prompt or you put in some input of some kind. And, the more you use the program, the more you can kind of guess how it sort of understands the structure of language. Or if you are using sort of image prompts, you can kind of understand what types of things from the image it gets attached to the algorithm, or it's sort of how it sort of reiterates certain things, but you still kind of like never really know how it's going to iterate certain things. And, the more you kind of elaborate your inputs and your prompts, the kind of less obvious it becomes what sort of output you're going to get. And I think there is that moment of sort of understanding like, oh, this is my input and this is what you interpreted as my input that resulted in the output. And that's completely not what I meant, or that's not the expectation I had. And so if the output is something that's actually interesting to me and something that I find sort of successful in some way or provocative in some way, what about that sort of gap in expectation is actually motivating or interesting to me? If this is not what I expected, why do I still like it? What about that sort of mismatch is interesting and motivating? And it's that kind of that gap, that space that I find there's the most like learning potential there. There's the most potential for introspection and for reflection and kind of for emotionality as well. As of course, there's sort of a pleasure of realizing an idea, and there's a pleasure of sort of having a confirmation bias. There's a pleasure in sort of, having something that's already inside you reflected back at you. But there's kind of a different, and for me, a little bit more nutritious, like deliciousness that comes from when you're sort of like reflected something back at you that you didn't know was already inside of you, it's so to speak, be kind of poetic about it. And that's the sort of like emotional quality that I would like my work to have, generally speaking. That's sort of what I mean by the gap.